Hey everybody, welcome to Q&A video number 21. Make sure to keep asking questions, doesn't matter what they're about, they can be about anything. But I don't respond to review requests or LP requests in these videos. I respond to them in the comments, I add them to the list. And that is basically, what do you think about insert game here, or would you please do a let's play or playthrough or something like that of this game. I don't do those in these Q&As. If you want to ask me about a specific feature, go right ahead though. Anyway, let's go ahead and get started with a question from RedMilkproductions. Hey DW, what are your thoughts on re-release games, HD remakes, trilogy collections, etc.? I'm perfectly fine with it. Thing is, a lot of games are bundled together in lots of different packs these days. At least well, maybe not anymore, but they used to be, where you would get like a big pack and it would have 4 or 5 games in it. Mostly completely random. Like I have one that was Command & Conquer Renegade, Freedom Force, Earth and Beyond, and a couple other things. I can't remember what they were. But it was just a random assortment and stuff like that. That's perfectly fine by me. It's fine when they do a remake, and all they do in that remake is they make sure the controls work on the new systems and they update the graphics. That is perfectly fine by me. It's perfectly fine when they just re-release the game, maybe after many years, and it's on a new system, or it's just updated to run on modern systems or something like that. That's perfectly fine. When you're doing what Street Fighter does, on the other hand, and where you release the same exact game over and over again with a different title and maybe some different graphics or a different character thrown in there, then you have a problem. Before you start going, oh, but Street Fighter's amazing! Do we really need all the ridiculous amounts of versions Street Fighter 2 and 3 have? Is that really necessary? I mean, really? Why? That's just milking the franchise. And they're doing that with more modern games too, and it's annoying. But that sort of thing does bother me. But other than that, I'm fine with it. Next one is from automaticspaz. What do you think of the efforts made to storylines in gaming recently? A lot of storylines have been samey and generic: Space Marines, zombies, military campaigns, etc. I like how the Souls series have interesting dark fantasy stories, and it was novel to me that the Kingdoms of Amalur people had an actual fantasy author involved, even if for the most part they made a generic fantasy title. I've noticed no one takes initiative, they just follow the basics, but what are your thoughts? I'm perfectly fine with things being generic so long as they're not generic enough that it bothers me. Now, I know that's kind of a stupid answer, but what I mean by that is that you have to have something in there that draws me in. You have to have something that's unique about this particular title, or that sets it apart from the rest of the stuff. If you're like Fable, and you do every single thing as generically as possible, then you have a problem. If you're doing it like, I don't know, Arcanum, where pretty much everything's unique, but they still have a few generic tropes in there, that is a great thing. Iteration is perfectly fine in gaming. In fact, it's a very good thing, because that allows the games to just get progressively better instead of just having to make a new thing every single time. That said, there's a certain point when you go iteration and it's just messing things up, like the Street Fighter ridiculous amounts of versions of that, where they're not actually iterating on it, they're just tweaking it slightly. And when it's stuff like that, that actually bothers me. When it's just a generic story that has no real draw to it, then that bothers me. If it's generic, but at the same time it's somehow got something unique about it, then it usually is fine. But like I said, it's perfectly fine to follow the pack so long as you're doing it well. Next one is from Gunker1991. What do you think about the whole discussion surrounding the DLC with Mass Effect 3, assuming you know what it's about? Yes, I know what it's about. There was a leak on Xbox Live Marketplace that showed off the From Ashes DLC for Mass Effect 3. This is included in the collector's edition of the game, so if you got that, which is $80, I might add, or it's $80 and 55 pounds, and I believe 80 euros, but I'm not 100% sure on that. Don't hold me to it on the euros part, but I believe it's 55 pounds and $80 US. And it includes some extra stuff, like an art book, a soundtrack, and that sort of thing. It also includes this DLC, From Ashes, which is kind of what they did with Dragon Age 2, if you got the Signature Edition, or it was one of the collector's editions, I think, that had, I mean, I got Signature Edition, but if you got that, then you got the DLC Sebastian, the Exiled Prince. They basically had cut a character from the game and sold it later as DLC. It was that simple. And that's exactly what happened with Dragon Age 2. That's exactly what happened here. Why do we know this? Because the script files leaked back in like June actually had this in there. So they're actually lying to us on that. They're saying, oh, well, it was done by a different team. It was done after everything else was finished, and we were just fixing everything up. No, 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 no. You planned this from the beginning, or EA planned it from the beginning. I don't care who, but it was planned from the beginning. Time and money was taken out of the development budget to make this specific DLC just to be a DLC on launch day. And it's horrible business. It's not enough for me to cancel my pre-order, but it's still horrible business. It's a terrible thing. And I don't see myself putting up with it in the future, especially if they get continuously worse with it, which I think they will eventually get much worse with it than just cutting out a character. Now, granted, with this one, they're going to have a hard time justifying this one, because it makes no sense not only to have this lore-critical character to be a DLC, but also to have this lore-critical character exist. It makes no logical sense to have this, so they're going to have to pull something completely out of their asses on this one to make it even remotely plausible. So, I can see this thing going horribly wrong on all fronts, but people will buy it, I guarantee you. Still, it's stupid. It's bad business, and if this is the way gaming is going, then gaming is headed for very dark times indeed. Next one is from It's Red Snow. What's your opinion on games that concentrate solely on either their multiplayer or single-player components? Do you buy games for the complete package and expect both halves of it to be polished? Depends on the package. If I go into Battlefield, I expect it to have awful single-player. Or in the case of campaigns anyway, I expect them to be absolutely terrible, because every single Battlefield campaign has been terrible. They have a good skirmish mode, though. I mean, just going in and playing on maps as practice, that's perfectly fine, and in fact, they do that very well. But no, they had to put in a campaign because everyone else is doing it, especially Call of Duty. But no, they're primarily multiplayer games. If I get them, then I get them for the multiplayer. Likewise, if I get, say, Mass Effect, I get it for the single player. I don't care about that multiplayer component they threw into Mass Effect 3. I don't really care. I mean, it's okay to have it in there, and as long as it's playable and polished enough that it's not a detriment, then it's fine. But if you do something like Dead Space did, where it was blatantly tacked on, Dead Space 2 has multiplayer that was blatantly tacked on, if you don't know that. And they didn't even really try with it. So, I mean, it's really a matter of whether the component that's not the primary focus is worth playing or not. That's a very individual basis thing. But I expect both halves to be at least playable and at least some bit of fun. Next one is from Unjolly Irishman. This is kind of long. Do you think Call of Duty should scrap the XP and leveling system altogether and replace it with COD points to buy guns and stuff, shift the system to an RPG-style system, or keep it as is? I personally would shift the XP system into an RPG-style system based entirely around combat with 3 skills. Strength, accuracy, and agility. That's various things. I would allow to make a character. It would allow to make a character how you wanted it. I would also make all guns and everything unlocked from the start, and have everything bought with COD points, with everything rated higher, costing more, and so forth. Actually, that would probably break the game, because then they'd find even more ways to break the game. I mean, you already have a huge number of Call of Duty players sitting there just screwing up the game by finding ways to make everything incredibly cheap. Like in Modern Warfare 3, it was the Akimbo FMG 9s with the steady aim perk, or whatever it was. I can't remember exactly what it was offhand. But they would take that, and they were unstoppable. Whereas everybody else was trying to do legitimate play, and they would just get annihilated by this guy spraying and praying all over the map. And this sort of thing happened all the time. They find ways to break things. I think if you unlock everything from the start, then you're going to have problems. I think if you're going to put it into 3 skills, then that doesn't exactly keep it a level playing field. And Call of Duty's problem for quite a while has been that it's not very well balanced, in that there's always 1 or 2 weapons that are better than all the other ones, or there's one or two combinations of perks and such that are better than all the others. And so people will just go straight for that, and suddenly everybody's overpowered, everybody's running around breaking the game, it's a mess. I really think that Call of Duty's XP system is perfectly fine. It's just that the weapons themselves need to be balanced out more so that they're not just all... there's not just one weapon that is more powerful than all the others. I think that's been their biggest problem for a while. Anyway, that was Q&A 21. Make sure to keep asking questions, and I will catch you guys in later videos.